Good afternoon again. September the 14th, 2024. In front of the camera is a 1688 Case International Axle Flow Combine. Something I don't know much about, being a red combine, but I'm going to just use this video to share more of a part two of the harvest is ready, but the laborers are few. If you know anything about me, you knew I only ever owned and run John Deere combine. This is the competitor. In its day, in its introduction of the new technology that was introduced in these early series of the 1680 Axle Flow Combine. I'm going to point out just a few things right here in the front. You see the drum, which should just be the throat chain or gathering chain that turns about, I think, 400 rounds a minute on the drum. I could be wrong. I know that shaft that you see, the pulley to the corner here, this drives the header. There's a drive on both sides of it. One side would drive the cutter bar, the other side would drive the reel and the auger. At least on John Deere. I'm not going to take time to walk around the other side, but I believe they're mirroring 1/8 inch and 1/8 coupling shafts. You have the cab, but right behind the traditional throat chain, you have the rotor. This would be the front bearing of the front of the rotor. You have vanes. It's like a large drill bit. I don't know if it's 2 feet in diameter. Some of them are 17 inches on dual design right now. But again, a very modern combine in its day. I called the owner a while ago and he couldn't even tell me the exact year, somewhere in the 1990s. They made the 1680 for 5 or 6 years. For half a year, they made the 1688. Then he went to the 2188, I do believe, as well, on up to the 2388. They changed the cab. How would I describe a combine? Without the header would do the cutting with a large pair of scissors, much like you get your hair cut at the barber. You have a clipper. Just imagine 20 foot up to 40 foot in width these days, large pair of scissors. But as it comes in, as a grain comes in, it starts a thrashing process. Again, the rotor is the full length of the, it replaced the straw walkers. It's hard to try to give any kind of insight, but it's a thrashing process. They went from a spike tooth cylinder or a rasp bar cylinder to a long drill bit size rotor. The lower part in here is a fan. It has to have air. So just think of you ladies, you guys have watched someone bake a cake and they may sift the flour. The flour would be granulated. It would be kind of clotty. You have to sift it. So whatever you would use to grind up the flour, it falls through the grates and upon the chaffer, and then below the sifting part of the chafer, actually a better pronunciation, then to the sheave. You have two elevators here on the side You have a rear tailings elevator, and you have the clean grain elevator. This is much just like any elevator that you would see. It takes something from a point low to a point high. At the center point of the combine here is the clean grain. It's been processed, and anything that goes from here up goes into the grain tank, which is up here. Let's just say this machine holds around 150 bushels. The tailings, if something is made it to this point right here and going through the shaking with the sifting, with the air, with the vigorous shaking, it comes to the auger, the tailings auger. It then returns back to the top of the front of the machine and goes through the machine again for a recycle, if you would. It has a chance to sift it out better. It could go through multiple times, but more than likely, I would say something only goes through one time. But then you get to the rear, which it just spreads the chaff. Why do I talk about this combine? Again, the harvest is ready, but the laborers are few. You may have been through a shaking in your life. We've grown up in families that have been through a lot. I had a lady come up to me last night in a service. The car drops her off. She's 55, I think she said. The car dropped her off. She walks and sits in a chair. Richard was there with me, and he said she needs prayer. I come off the platform and met the lady. And I said, is everything okay? And she said, it's not. She immediately said that she'd had two nightcaps, two drinks. She kept putting her hand over her mouth. Guilt was coming upon her. Conviction was coming upon her. Again, a shaking process for us to get where God is trying to get us to. And I'm using this combine because it's harvest season. This next month, as we go into the fall feast on God's calendar, starting somewhere around October the 2nd through maybe the 22nd, you've got the 3 fall feast. Rosh Hashanah, Sukkot is the last one, but the Day of Atonement maybe. But anyway, these 3 fall feasts are very key in this next year, I do believe, as we go into the Jubilee year. And I'm learning that from other people that are very gifted in teaching this. But a shaking. You see a big tire. This thing has to carry lots of weight, lots of ground condition. But back to the lady. Within about 5 minutes, her car pulled back up, and I had a chance to learn a lot about this particular lady. Her daughter was driving a car. Her granddaughter was in the rear seat. She asked us if we would go get them out of the car and asked them to come. They wanted prayer because they were going through a lot with custody issues and shakings and just a lot of turmoil. You may have been through a lot. If you went through the front of this machine and you come out, you would be nothing but parts and pieces. But if you go through this part right here and you go to the grain tank, you have been harvested. You've been processed. God is looking for those He can use that have been through much and they've come out on the other side, beaten, battered, polished, refined to look like Jesus. Would that be you? Can you share your gospel? Can you lead someone to the Lord that they can be saved? Because The harvest is plentiful, the laborers is few. Made Like New Ministries. Come join the harvest. Support the harvesters. In Jesus' name, God bless you. Till next time.